Morning, everyone. Welcome to iTeach Live, our daily web series where iTeach is going to be focusing on educators around the nation and administrators throughout the next couple weeks to just engage with teachers and hear their perspective in the classroom, outside the classroom, how COVID is affecting lives and their lives. And so this morning we actually have the privilege of speaking with Amy Crew. She went through iTeach Texas, I think 6 years ago. So she went through her first year was 2014 and 2015. She was initially certified as a special ed teacher. But before I talk too long, I just want to say good morning, Amy. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very good, all things considered. It's certainly an interesting time here at work and certainly in the school environment. What's been the kind of the single thing that sticks out to you and the change of your life getting outside the classroom and going home?
I think it's just the whole communication, the change and the shift in that, holding meetings via, Google or Zoom, and people having to learn how to use different technology to be able to do, because you have a lot of people that, aren't experienced with technology. And then now they had it dumped in their lap and now they're having to learn it. And so that's kind of been the struggle. But, everybody got on board really quick in our district, and it's gone really smooth for us.
And that is really good news. I certainly want to dive more into how you're handling classrooms at home and students and parents. But before we start, maybe stepping a couple steps back and getting your background. So you came to us in 2014. What were you doing before teaching, and then how did you decide to make the jump into teaching?
Growing up, always wanted to be a teacher, played school. I really enjoyed, learning about my teachers growing up. And so that's what I always kind of knew I wanted to do. After I graduated high school, kind of took a different route, didn't go back to college until I was an adult. And I got a general studies, and then I went to work for Child Protective Services. I was an investigator for Orange County for several years with them. A lot of emotional burnout and a lot of stress. So, I knew there was still that lingering goal, that I wanted to be a teacher. And so I looked around at different programs and came across iTeach, and it seemed like it would really fit my schedule, what I was looking for. So I jumped right in. I got my special ed certification, and my very first year of teaching, when I went through the program, I was thrown into an adaptive behavior unit. I had 11 boys.
Wow.
And when I started, I started in November, and I was their fourth teacher already that school year. So, I learned a lot that year, through the program and kind of being thrown into that situation. And then since then, I have worked and obtained. I have a master's in curriculum and instruction and a master's in educational administration. And then I've also picked up my EC through 6 core certification and my principal certification.
Wow, you've been busy the past several years. So what's your current role with the school system now? Are you an administrator, or what's your job functions?
Right now, I'm an art facilitator, and I am a special ed department head for our middle school campus, which is 5th and 6th grade. So, I kind of guide those special ed teachers, give them feedback, help them, just throughout the year. And then as the art facilitator, I cover our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and I hold all the art meetings, all of the special ed side for them. And so, that's kind of been tricky, is scheduling ARD meetings during this time and holding them, video conference or by phone, and, scheduling. I'm used to, having those teachers right there in front of me. And if I need to run to their room or something, But, being remote like this and having to schedule all those meetings and schedule people, and it's just been a little more difficult, but
Sure.
we are finished with all of our ARD meetings for the year. So now it's
Congrats.
just, catch up on paperwork.
So you mentioned it was challenging to go virtual with those meetings, and you mentioned the convenience of being at the school to go into classrooms, and then you also talked about the challenges of scheduling. Is it more difficult to do the scheduling, or is it just not being in the school? What do you think the biggest challenge in having those ARD meetings virtually is?
I think the challenge mostly is not being in the school. I don't have access to, all of the files. And so if I need to go back and dig in their file and look at information, I don't have access right there in my office to all of that. I don't have access to, we have printers at home, but, at school, we're used to being able to print mass
Right, right.
quantities and things. And so, everything's just kind of piled up for the day. We get the okay to go back and and I just have notes on everything, what I need to do with each file. And like I said, just being able to, run into the counselor's office and say, hey, I have a quick question about this student, or, having a teacher stop by and ask a question, because, a lot of times a teacher might email me and I might not see it for several hours or until the
Right.
next day. Whereas when we're at school, they can pop in my office and get an answer instantly. And so I feel like, that kind of is hard, because I
Sure.
like to make sure that I'm able to give them answers they need as quickly as possible.
So we're all new to kind of being forced to teach and do this all remotely, but it sounds like you have a game plan in place. So first day back, how to handle those files and that backlog
Mhm.
of going through things, not knowing exactly how that looks. What would be your tips for other teachers in that same situation? Maybe not doing the ARD filing or the meetings,
Mhm.
but a lot of teachers are going to go back into a classroom with I would imagine a backlog of things. Um, I would love to know your input of how you designed your note system, or what's your strategy for that first day going back. What are you thinking about?
It's very informal. I may mainly just kind of make stacks, and I make a note, and I'll put what all this stack needs to be done. And that's kind of what I encourage teachers to do. Just don't try to do it all at once. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't stress over it.
Sure.
Every teacher in the country is in the same situation we are. So, we're not singled out. So, just make you some little goals and say, on the first day back, I need to just kind of go in, assess my room, get everything kind of get hooked back up, get connected again. And then maybe the next day, make a new goal and say, okay, on this day, I'm going to file any unnecessary paperwork to get that out of the way, and just kind of make you little small goals that that you can accomplish each day, so that you don't get overwhelmed.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good word. Shifting a little bit from the kind of the current environment of COVID, I want to talk about, I know you're passionate about professional development and teachers, and I want to hear about what drives that passion for professional development and teaching, and why is that important to you?
Professional development is important to me because I feel you can never stop learning. You're never at a point where you know everything and there's nothing else that you can learn new. And I like to think back on, some of those teachers that have, a binder that they've used since the 80s, and that's what they use every year. They pull their worksheets. Their lesson plans don't change. They use that same lesson plan every year, and that doesn't work anymore.
Right.
With our kids and technology and everything going on right now, that just doesn't work. And so, especially now, with professional development and so much of it being available online, I really encourage that, especially for teachers like my general ed teachers that have special ed students in the
Mm.
classroom.
Right.
They need more information on special ed. They need to know, what things mean, how to handle certain things. And so, I encourage them, go online, do some special ed professional development. Go to your local education service center. They have, workshops face to face during the year. They have workshops online, webinars, and just take in as much as you can, because that's the only way that you're going to learn how to really engage with those students. And, like I said, if it means you go and you learn a lesson on how to use TikTok or Instagram to
Right.
reach your students,
Yeah.
to be able to incorporate that and engage them, then that's what you need to do. When I was in the classroom during football season, that's how I communicated, with my boys. We would talk football, and
Sure.
we would incorporate football into the lesson. And so it just makes it click. And so you have to find ways to make it click. And I think always learning and staying up to date through professional development helps you with that.
Well, I certainly agree personally, but also at iTeach, we strive to find individuals and encourage individuals to be lifelong learners.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a pinnacle of education that we're going to reach, and so striving to find new ways, like you're talking about, to engage the kids is certainly crucial for student engagement and learning. I'm wondering, when a new teacher gets in the classroom, there is a newness about it, and there might be an energy to continue learning, but for teachers that have been in a classroom for a while, there might be a comfort or a complacency
Mm-hmm.
that starts to kind of settle in, and it's easy to get there as a teacher, I think. What are ways that you think we can encourage teachers, or you might be able to encourage a teacher right now to move from the idea of complacency into trying to learn more, to get engaged with the students, and maybe engage at their level? You mentioned new technologies that students are engaging with. It might be challenging or overwhelming to some teachers, but I think teachers have a new opportunity coming into the classroom this fall. It's almost like a fresh reset. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what your thoughts are, or how you can encourage someone to get off the proverbial couch and get some good professional development.
Well, the good thing is all of the teachers now are going to be experienced with Google Classroom
Right.
and, the technology side. So I think that's going to be an easy transition to be able to still incorporate that. And, there's Texas A&M University has a program. It's their College of Education, and they have, they're called MOOPLs. Don't ask me what that stands for, but they're called MOOPLs. And their modules, their professional development modules, they're free. There are hundreds of them. You register with your email and you log in and you sign up for the course. They're about 30 minutes. They have discussions that you can collaborate with other teachers. They have everything that ranges, from classroom strategies to English language learners, just all types of subjects, and you get a certificate at the end for the professional development. And so, it's simple. And so I think that needs to be a big push, is how easy it is to get professional development now. And then, talking about those teachers that are kind of in their bubble, I encourage them to, look at their data, look at their student behaviors, and then try something new and see what changes you get. Because the more you engage them, that behavior is going to go down and that data is going to, increase, because they're going to be more engaged and they're going to be more excited to learn. And so you're going to see those changes in your data. And so, that's what I always encourage, is to kind of track it and see the trends that work and don't work, and then, focus on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when we talk about the art of teaching, that art is exactly what you're talking about, is how to relate to students in the classroom, and how to bring it to their level, that when they come to the class, they know that Ms. Crew is going to provide a really relevant and interesting lesson that's going to integrate football with the subject matter. And so
Mm-hmm.
you get students excited, and that's really, I think, where the art of teaching kind of comes in, is how you can play up what might be a boring topic to them in their minds, but how it's relatable, either applicable in future life or even right then.
Mm-hmm.
Is certainly it helps with student performance. And like you said, there's other benefits like student behavior and things like that. You mentioned Texas A&M has those free MOOPLs, which I'm not going to ask you what the acronym stands for. What other resources have you used, or that you know about, that you can maybe let people know?
Definitely, like I said, I'm Region 5, and so, our Education Service Center, you go on and they offer webinars. You can find where they'll give you free webinars. They'll give you face-to-face when we can do that, workshops, hands-on workshops. But those are excellent choices. If you go on the Texas Education Agency, there's some links there that guide you to some different webinars. And then usually, if you just kind of Google what you're looking for, you can find webinars or professional development. Also, in the Edutopia, they offer educational. It's not really professional development. It's more videos and articles, but they're very helpful. They're videos on certain classroom strategies, things that you can do in the classroom. And so that's really helpful, I think, to new teachers, because it really shows you from a teacher's viewpoint in those videos, and you can kind of put yourself in that situation and watch them and, adapt your style if you need to.
Sure. And what we can do, what I'll do is follow up on the Facebook channel and on YouTube. I'm going to put some of those resources just in the comments that you mentioned and ones that we might know of internally. So if anyone's looking at this and wants to get access to some simple and easy professional development, I can certainly put those resources and make them available right here on the stream. So if you're watching this at a later date, certainly look down below and we can have some links there for you. I want to shift kind of to looking into the future with your crystal ball, given what's been happening in the past 6 weeks, but even before then, where do you think the classroom and education is going and trending towards? What shifts or changes are you anticipating happening in the classroom?
I definitely see a shift to the more technological side. I see a lot of districts maybe looking more into becoming a one-to-one device district, just because of, we've seen how well this works, how well we can reach students. And so I look for that to be a trend, utilizing Google Classroom, and teachers are going to be able to put assignments in there that students, there won't be the excuse anymore. I forgot my book at school, or, I forgot my worksheet at school. Then the teacher will say, well, you have it in your Google Classroom.
Right.
And so they'll have access to it a lot more. And so I definitely see that shift happening. And I see, just from our ARD meeting side and special ed side, those parents that typically have trouble getting up to the school, I see us being able to utilize those video conferences a lot more. Right. Teachers can use video conferences for parent-teacher meetings. So I see that becoming a big trend as well, which to me is a good thing, because, it's just making us even more accessible to those parents.
It is interesting you bring up just the video conferencing. It seems like in the past month, our nation has fully embraced Google Hangouts and Zoom. And I know even watching the news in the morning, I was watching the Today Show, and it's all Zoom broadcast on my TV. It certainly has normalized this medium. And I think it's going to be to the benefit and convenience of a lot of students, parents, and teachers that for a myriad of reasons can engage virtually, just like we're doing, and have honest and good conversations about students or about anything else virtually, where I think there might have been, prior to this pandemic, maybe a hesitation to leverage some of the resources out there.
Yep.
One of the things you mentioned is you going forward and looking at the futures of teaching. Obviously, professional development is going to help maintain a teacher's edge in those progressions. So you mentioned technologies that they could use. What other encouragements or advice would you have for teachers to kind of have a long-term vision of teaching, so they can maintain kind of this cutting edge idea of where teaching is going, so they don't become lethargic or stuck in the mud, so to speak, in terms of as education is progressing? What's your advice for teachers to maintain that same evolution?
I think it's important at the beginning of the year. I think it's very important to learn your students. Give them some kind of a document that they're able to put down as much information. Ask them what their favorite video game is, what social media do they use, what favorite food, favorite color. Learn your students, because then you're going to be able to form your lessons around your students and what they enjoy, what they adapt, what they engage to. And, you're going to really be able to reach those students. If not, if you don't learn them, then you're just teaching just as a whole. You're just kind of standing out up there, just throwing it out there and hoping that everyone picks it up. Whereas if you really learn your students and you learn that this student is really shy, doesn't like to talk in front of people, or this student really loves to help, then you're going to be able to know, okay, when we do this lesson, I need to maybe pair this student with this student, or let this student do that. So, a lot of times teachers don't really learn their students. And that even helps with behavior, because if you learn a student and you find out their home life isn't so great, then you're going to understand that their behavior isn't just because they're acting out, or, they're bored. They're acting out maybe because something's gone on at home that day, or, they might not have eaten in 2 days and they're just hungry. So really learning your students is going to help you build your classroom and really know what direction you need to take. What do you need to learn more about? What do you need to focus on as the educator so that you can help your students?
And that is really insightful. I'm curious, after 6 years of doing this, is there a time or a moment or a lesson that you're really proud of in which you were able to craft it to someone's specific likings or inclinations? I'm wondering if you were taking in those kind of pre-surveys of the students and learning something. I'm curious if one stands out of something you're proud of that you were able to engage really uniquely with your students.
Um, Really, it's, sports are huge down here. So anytime that I can incorporate sports, that was always a big win. And one year that I taught, I had a little female student, and she was an ESL student. And, we don't always celebrate those students, and really learn what they can bring to the classroom. So we did a lesson. It was more of a reading passage. It was kind of the history of hot chocolate.
Okay.
And it was, when it was cold and, kind of those dreary days. And, we learned how it originated in Mexico. And so kind of took her in and let her read some of the passage where it had, those Spanish kind of words and stuff. And so it kind of showcased her a little bit, and she really kind of flourished after that, and enjoyed being able to be a part of that, because to her, it felt like she was able to kind of teach the students a little bit, because they would ask her, how did you say that word? And so she'd be able to, tell them how to say it. So it was really fun. And I think that made a big connection in the classroom.
Man, what an awesome example of student empowerment. I would have loved to have been in that classroom to see I could see the smile in my mind of her being able to be proud of her culture. That's fantastic.
Their favorite part was at the end, whenever we got to actually make the hot chocolate in the classroom and they got to drink it. So, that trumped the whole reading passage and everything, but.
So Amy, a lot of, I hope anyone watching this can take a lot from it, but if I was to force you to name one piece of advice for first year teachers, what is the best thing that you think a first year teacher, if you could isolate it to one thing, would be helpful for them to hear?
You're going to make it through. The first year is tough. I think about this year in our area. We started out the year and, we had Tropical Storm Imelda at the beginning of the year. And then we have the coronavirus at the end of the year. So, for a first year teacher this year, if you make it through this year, you can make it through any year. But, don't try to outdo yourself the first year. Don't try to stress over all the small things, because, in the end, all that matters is that you reach those students and that you teach them and you love them. And, they're not going to remember how fancy your worksheets were, or they're not going to remember how perfect your bulletin boards are. They're going to remember the person. So, make sure that you focus on yourself and your relationship with those students.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Do you think it shifts for any teacher that's more tenured, or does that encouragement advice remain through the teaching career? Or what if a tenured teacher, what advice would you have for someone entering in their 10th year teaching this fall?
I think it's the same thing. That 10-year teacher, you still want to focus on just your relationship with your students and how well you're reaching them. Just making sure you're teaching them and not focusing on all the little details that, I don't want to say that they don't matter, but you want to just focus on the big picture and not stress over those little things, because those little things are going to be there every year, but
Right.
you just want to focus on reaching those students.
Yeah, I think that's good advice as well. And I know for me, when I think back, and probably the same for you, as we think about our favorite teachers that we had, I don't remember a single lesson individually of those teachers, but I do know the impact they had on me and just the entire school year, how they were there to celebrate and support me. And I think know what they taught me, but it wasn't an individual lesson that made them my favorite teacher. It was just the way they treated me and the way they were engaged in the classroom. And so I think that's good for any teacher to hear and know that you might have good days and bad days, but as long as you're encouraging and you're there to celebrate student achievement, I think that's the lasting impression these students will take with them for sure.
Yeah, I can remember my first grade teacher. I don't remember anything I learned in first grade, but I remember she had it was a little tin box that had stationery in it. And every day she would pass out little notes to people, and it would say, you look really nice today, or you listened very well during the lesson. And she would give us these little notes, and my mom actually kept them, and she had them in a box, all those little notes. And so, that just makes me remember, that's what mattered, was just knowing that she was really paying attention to us, and she was really focused on us. And like I said, I don't remember any of the lessons, but I remember the love that she had for us.
Yeah, man, that's really cool. Amy, I had a full list of questions here to go over, and I'm glad we got to a lot of them, but we're running against our 30-minute timer here. And so I just wanted to kind of close with any last things that you wanted to give, general advice or encouragement or relevant information that you could provide to anyone who might be viewing this, teachers or parents alike, as we kind of close out the school year and hopefully normalize over the summer. I'll let you end the discussion.
I guess just be patient. Be patient with everybody in your school, not just the teachers, but our secretaries, our principals, our custodians. Be patient with everybody. We're all working in a new world. We're all learning new things, learning how to adapt to this new norm. So don't get aggravated. We're all learning. Just ask questions. And that's, the big thing for teachers and people going through the program. Ask as many questions as you can. There's no wrong question, no dumb question. That's the only way that we learn. And just enjoy the journey. Enjoy, what you can. Don't stress over it, and just, have fun.
That's fantastic. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. I certainly am confident that anyone watching this is going to glean a lot of your expertise, and I appreciate your time. Be well. Have I know your husband's in the medical industry and healthcare, so be safe, and hopefully we'll get back to normal this fall.
No problem. You too.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks.